Hi guys, and thank you for tuning in to my personal finance channel. My name is Raz, and today I don't want to talk about the youngest billionaires of the world. I don't want to talk about the Kylie Jenners. I don't want to talk about the Mark Zuckerbergs. I want to talk about the people who had great success and became very wealthy after they were 40. Because I think we had too much of younger, successful entrepreneurs. And I think we are bombarded with that message that the best and maybe the only time to achieve success is in your 20s. And that is completely not true. This is a very faulty image of reality. And I worked hard to put up a list of great, successful people who made it after they were 40. And that video is going to be quite long. I found so many great people, and I researched just to make sure that they didn't achieve their success or started their businesses even not a day before they were 40. So I think it's going to be a two-part video, maybe three-part video. If you want to watch all of them, please press like and the bell icon so you'll be notified when I release the second and third part. I hope you enjoyed it. I really enjoyed making this, and I hope to pass the message that you can get very successful and get very rich after you're 40, and some people on that list made it after 50 and 60, and there's always an open door for everyone. So without any further ado, let's start the list. I want to open the list of people who achieved great success after the age of 40 with Queen Mom Kriss Jenner. Now, Kriss was famously married to lawyer Robert Kardashian. He also represented O.J. Simpson in the trial of the century. And I know she wasn't poor before embarking her own career, but it doesn't disqualify her from this list because many successful and rich people came from wealthy upbringing, including Bill Gates. And this list is not a list of rags to riches story. It's the list of people who became very successful and very rich in their own rights after the age of 40. So Jenner is qualified, definitely. She's maybe even overqualified. Anyways, Jenner started her career as a flight attendant. Then she got married and had her 4 famous kids. In 2004, she opened a children's boutique with her eldest daughter, Courtney, and they closed the boutique 5 years later. Her big break came in 2007 when the reality show Keeping Up with the Kardashians aired and made her and her family very rich. She was 52, and since then Kriss became one of the most powerful women in show business, and according to Celebrity Net Worth, Kriss worth $140 million. Next is Gene Simmons. Simmons is an American mathematician and a billionaire hedge fund manager. He spent most of his career in academic institutes. In 1982, when he was 44, he founded the Renaissance Hedge Fund, which used computer-based models to predict price changes in financial markets. His main fund, Medallion, had 39.1 average net return for 30 years, and that is crashing the market. According to Forbes magazine, Simmons had a net worth of $23.5 billion, making him number 36 on the Forbes billionaires list in 2020. Next on the list is Henry Ford, and he's quite famous. Ford was the man who launched the mass production and sale of affordable cars to the public. Before funding Ford Motors, he worked for Edison Illuminating Company, and during the time he worked there, he experimented with car building as a side project. He founded his first company in 1899, but it dissolved 2 years later, and 2 years after that, he managed to raise capital and found the famous Ford Motor Company when he was 40. Still, it took him 5 years to build the Model T, the famous Model T, which was an affordable and simple-to-drive car. And by 1980, half of the cars in the United States were Model Ts, and Ford became one of the richest men in the world. His fortune is estimated at $188 billion, inflation adjusted, while the richest man today is Jeff Bezos with $140 million. So this gives you a little perspective to how rich Ford was. Next, I grouped few authors. Some of them are extremely wealthy, And I'll go back to entrepreneurs later, but I thought that authors are a great example to show how age doesn't really matter and there are a lot of possibilities later in life. So, starting the authors list is Delia Owens. And Delia Owens is actually a zoologist, and she studied the wildlife in Africa most of her life. And her debut novel, Where the Crawdads Sing, was published in 2018 when she was 65. I couldn't find any reference to her net worth, but her novel was an international bestseller and sold more than 4.5 million copies. And Fox actually acquired the film rights. So I guess it's safe to say that Owens achieved great financial success after 65. The next author on my list is Laura Ingalls Wilder, and you might recognize this name from a very successful TV show in the 80s called Little House on the Prairie. And Laura Ingalls Wilder, she started writing that book, Little House on the Prairie, when she was 65. And the reason she did that was because of the stock market crash in 29. That crash wiped her family out, and she turned to writing, hoping to generate some additional income from writing. Now, that happened 100 years ago, so I couldn't find any reference to how rich Wilder was, but she sold millions of books, and she sold the rights for the adaptation to the TV shows. So I think it's safe to say that Wilder died a wealthy woman. Moving on to a more current author is E.L. James. You may not recognize her name, but I'm pretty sure you're familiar with her famous work. Erica Leonard Michaels, also known as E.L. James, is the author of 50 Shades of Grey trilogy. In 2008, James was insanely absorbed with the Twilight series and so inspired that she picked up a pen for the first time in her life. She wrote 50 Shades as a response or a sequel to the Twilight series in 2009 when she was 56. The trilogy made her extremely wealthy. Her books have sold 125 million copies worldwide, and Celebrity Net Worth estimates her fortune at $150 million. Next on the list is Bram Stoker, who was a very famous author. He started as a theater critic, turned to a business manager of actor Henry Irving, turned to a novelist. In 1897, yes, long time ago, when Stoker was 50, he wrote his most notable work, Dracula. Susan Collins was actually a writer all of her life. She began her career as a writer for children's television shows and children's books. She found her fame and fortune when she was 46 as the first book of the Hunger Games trilogy was published. In 2012, Amazon announced that she had become the best-selling Kindle author of all time and that Collins had written 29 out of the 100 most highlighted passages in Kindle ebooks. Her net worth has been estimated to be around $80 million. JRR Tolkien is identified as the father of fantasy literature. He held positions in a few academic institutes in the UK till he was 45. Then a book he wrote for his own children years before The Hobbit was published. It became a huge success and Tolkien was asked to write a sequel. 7 years later, he published the Lord of the Rings trilogy when he was 62. Forbes magazine ranked him as the 5th top earning dead celebrity in 2009, with earnings estimated at $50 million. Ian Fleming was inspired to write a spy novel during his military service as a naval intelligence officer during the Second World War. But after the war, he turned to journalism, and only at the age of 45 he published the first tale of super spy James Bond, Casino Royale. Next on the authors list is Julia Child. Julia Child was the woman who introduced French cuisine to America, and she's not exactly an author, she's more of a chef, but she did write a lot of books, so she's in that list. Child was 36 when she walked into a French restaurant for the first time, and when she and her husband were posted in Paris, she immediately fell in love with cooking and studied at the Cordon Bleu and opened a small cooking school for American women in Paris. Her big breakthrough came at the age of 44 with the publication of her 726 pages book, Mastering the Art of French Cooking, followed by the cooking show The French Chef on TV. She died at the age of 21, leaving behind her 12 cookbooks, 13 TV shows, and a net worth estimated at $38 million. Staying in the same field of cooking and hosting, the next person on my list is Martha Stewart. Stewart did some modeling when she was a student to help pay for her tuition. Then she started a second career as a stockbroker, and after that, she started a catering business from her home. She published her first book, Entertaining, when she was 41, and that followed by 8 other books she released during the 80s. Those books were only the beginning of her thriving career, which included Martha Stewart Living Magazine. A TV show was launched when she was 52, and when she was 65, she started her own brand media company, which she sold in 2015 for $350 million. She's one of the richest women in entertainment, with net worth estimated over $600 million. With Martha Stewart, I want to sign off the list of successful authors and go back to successful entrepreneurs. And the next person on my list, Colonel Sanders, has the most amazing story, because this guy, who's the founder of Kentucky Fried Chicken, was quite a failure most of his adult life. He was moving a lot all over the United States looking for a way to make a living, switching jobs. He held so many jobs, was fired from a lot of them. He was forced to move back with his mom, and at times even his wife had to live with her parents with their kids. And this guy had so little luck. He failed at whatever he tried, and he persevered. He worked in various jobs, mainly in railroads companies, and had a minor success during his 30s when he established a ferry boat company that was an instant success, and Sanders sold it for $22,000, which was a lot back then, but he lost all that money in the next company he started. After this failure, he moved to Kentucky to work as a salesman for the Michelin Tire Company and lost this job. Then, when he was 40, things started to turn around very, very slowly. Shell, the oil company, offered him a service station where he sold chicken dishes. His popularity actually grew, and when he was 49, he acquired a motel, which was destroyed in a fire a few months later. I told you he was a very misfortunate man, and Sanders had it rebuilt as a motel with a 400-seat restaurant. Unfortunately, World War II started, and as tourism dried up, Sanders was forced to close the motel. In 1952, when Sanders was 62, the Kentucky Fried Chicken was founded. Sanders franchised his recipe for the first time, and the first restaurant of K.F.C. was born in Utah. In the first year, sales more than tripled, and Sanders decided to franchise this chicken concept in earnest and traveled the U.S. looking for suitable restaurants with his wife. Often they were sleeping in the backseat of his car. The company expanded rapidly and had more than 600 locations in 12 years. But Sanders was getting older and overwhelmed by success. So when he was 73, he decided to sell the company for $2 million, and those worth today $16.5 million. By the time of Sanders' death, there were an estimated 6,000 K.F.C. restaurants in 48 countries worldwide. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. And if you like that video, please hit that like button. It really, really helps with the YouTube algorithm. And if you want to be notified when the next part of Successful People Over 40 is released, then hit that bell, the red bell too. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a great day.